Just after 10 p.m. on October 27, 2025, a man in eastern North Carolina picked up his phone. He dialed 911. The dispatcher who answered did not know yet what he was about to say. The man told her he had been hiding his children's bodies for 5 months, 4 of them in his garage, while the rest of the world went on, while they were away. The man on the line was Wellington Dickens III, 38 years old, an Iraq War veteran, the father of 5 children. By the time he made that phone connection on a Monday night in late October, 4 of those children were dead. The 5th was 3 years old and was sitting on his father's bed. The address the dispatcher relayed to deputies was 101 Springtooth Drive, on the outskirts of a town 24 miles east of Raleigh. It is the kind of street where neighbors might wave from their driveways. It is the kind of street where no one had waved at this family in a long time. Chapter 1. Zebulon. Zebulon is a small town in Johnston County, on the eastern edge of the Research Triangle. Brick houses, sycamore trees, cul-de-sacs that end against pine woods. The Dickens home sat back from Springtooth, on a half-acre lot, half screened by trees and a chain-link fence. Neighbors told reporters from the Raleigh News and Observer that they had rarely seen activity at the house. The children were homeschooled. Extended family said they had not been permitted to visit. When deputies arrived that Monday night, they would find a house that had been closed off from the world for years. The yard was overgrown. The shades were drawn. There was an obvious smell as soon as the garage door opened. It would take investigators days to begin to understand what they were looking at. Before any of them got there, the man inside had had 5 months to think about what he was going to say. 5 months to rehearse the phrase he would eventually use. 5 months between the first child and the phone. Chapter 2. Stephanie. Stephanie Ray Jones Dickens was the mother of the children inside the Springtooth Drive house. She had married Wellington in 2015. They had their first child the following year. Her husband had been an Army veteran of the Iraq War, and according to a great uncle who spoke with WRAL, he had a little problem. He had a problem ever since he came back. Stephanie was 37 when she died, at home, on April 21, 2024. According to the medical examiner's autopsy made public months later, she had been about 3 months pregnant. She had begun to bleed heavily around 3 in the morning. She did not seek medical care. She did not believe in doctors. Her husband helped her clean up in the shower. He went back to bed. He woke when he heard her collapse. He told the medical examiner he was medically trained. He performed chest compressions on her. He believed she was dead by 9 a.m. that morning. He did not dial 911 until later that afternoon. Investigators were told he had moved her body back into the bed. He had gone into town to buy food for the children. He had eaten a meal with them. He had told them their mother was dead. He had allowed them to come into the bedroom to see her. There was no foul play, the medical examiner determined. Her death was an accident. The case was closed. 18 months later, the husband she left behind would pick up that same phone to report a different kind of death.
Chapter 3. The Wall. To understand what happened in 2025, you have to understand what was already built into the household. There was a wall around this family, not a literal one, a refusal. In August of 2016, the Dickens' first child, a newborn daughter, was born with jaundice at WakeMed Hospital in Raleigh. WakeMed wanted to admit her for treatment because jaundice in newborns, untreated, can cross into the brain. The Dickens family refused. They left the hospital against doctor's orders, taking the baby with them. They missed the follow-up appointment. Hospital staff reported the family to the North Carolina Division of Social Services. When a social worker showed up at the family's home on August 23, 2016, the father refused to let her see the child. He refused again on the next visit, and the visit after that. Eventually, a judge ordered him to comply. He refused and was jailed for contempt of court. He sat in the Wake County Jail until he agreed, finally, to let his wife take the baby to a county health clinic. In May of 2018, the father filed a lawsuit. He sued WakeMed. He sued the judge. He invoked HIPAA. He invoked the Constitution. He invoked his right as a father to decide what care his daughter would receive. The lawsuit was dismissed, but the wall, the refusal, the household closed off from outside eyes, that remained for 9 more years. The newborn daughter from 2016 would grow up inside that wall. The other children, born after her, would never know what was on the other side. Then, in May of 2025, something inside that wall broke. Chapter 4. Leah. The first to die was the youngest of the four. She was 6 years old. In his October confession to a Johnston County dispatcher, her father would say that he had been over-disciplining her. He would say that he hit her. He would say it had not been intentional. He would say he had gone to check on her and found that she was no longer alive. He did not, according to that confession, dial 911 in May. He did not contact a doctor. He did not notify a coroner. He did not, his great-uncle told reporters later, tell anyone in the family. Instead, according to court documents made public after his arrest, he placed her body inside the Honda Civic that sat in his garage. He closed the garage door, and then he waited to see what would happen next. 5 months later, he would describe that period in his own words. He would tell the dispatcher, "I killed my children. It is all my fault." But it would not stay one child. Chapter 5. The Pattern. What followed the death of the youngest daughter, according to the affidavit filed by a detective with the Johnston County Sheriff's Office, was a pattern. In August of 25, his 9-year-old daughter Zoe began asking questions about where her sister had gone. According to the affidavit, the father taped her mouth shut. He told investigators it was a punishment. He told them it was discipline. He went away. When he returned to check on her, she was no longer alive. In late August or early September, the father said he had been teaching his 10-year-old son how to box. The son had stopped eating after some weeks of this training. The son had appeared, the father said, to die of malnutrition. And then in September, the 18-year-old stepson, Sean Brasfield, the father's stepchild from a prior relationship, had also stopped eating. He died too. Malnutrition, the father said. He did not bury any of them. He did not contact any of their schools because there were no schools. He did not contact any of their doctors because there were no doctors. He simply, according to investigators, placed each body inside the same Honda Civic, in the same garage. The father has been asked, since his arrest, what he believes he did to his children. He has given different answers at different moments. To one investigator, he gave a phrase that the district attorney would later describe as the most chilling sentence of the entire case file. He said, "I did not torture them. I over-disciplined them."
Chapter 6. The Trunk. There has to be a moment in a story like this where you describe the place, where you say, this is where the bodies were. The place was a trunk. The trunk of a Honda Civic. A Honda Civic is a small sedan. Its trunk is, by manufacturer specification, 14.1 cubic feet of cargo space. That is not much room. Investigators from the Johnston County Sheriff's Office would describe in court filings made public after the arrest, finding what they called a body bag in that trunk, parked inside an attached garage at 101 Springtooth Drive. They would describe an overwhelming smell of decomposition. They would describe what they called an overwhelming amount of insect activity. Investigator Don Pate told reporters at a news conference that there was evidence someone had attempted to clean up an apparent crime scene inside the house. Whoever had attempted that cleanup had not, the investigator said, succeeded. By the time the father picked up the phone on the night of October 27th, 4 of his children had been inside that trunk, in some combination, for somewhere between 1 and 5 months. The father had been living in the house. The youngest surviving child had been living in the house. The garage door had been closed. The garage door had been closed for 5 months. And then, on a Monday night in late October, he opened it. Chapter 7. The Call. Just after 10 p.m., a phone call came in to the Johnston County emergency line. Sheriff Steve Bizzle told reporters at the news conference the next morning that, while the dispatcher who took that call had taken many difficult calls in her career, she one quite like this one. The transcript was released a few days later. The man on the line gave his name. He gave a phone number. He said, "I killed my children." He said, "It is a lot to explain, but in a nutshell, it is all my fault." He said he had tried earlier in the evening to reach a lawyer. He said he had not been able to reach one. He said he was, in his words, trying to turn himself in. He said he was sorry about not following procedure. He said he did not have weapons on him. He said he would come outside in his underwear if that was what they needed. He said his 3-year-old son was alive, inside the house, on his bed. He said at one point that God had influenced him. He said at one point that he had been a coward. He said at one point that he was supposed to make those decisions. He said that things had spiraled. He said that they had gotten worse and worse and worse. The dispatcher stayed on the line until a deputy reached the front of the house. The deputy walked up to the door. The dispatcher disconnected. Inside the door was the man who had made the connection. Behind him, on the bed, was the child who was still alive. Chapter 8. The Survivor. The survivor was 3 years old. According to the affidavit, he was found alive and apparently unharmed, sitting up on his father's bed in the small house at 101 Springtooth Drive. He was the youngest of the 5 children that had lived in that house. He had survived, by the math of the timeline, somewhere around 5 months of his siblings disappearing one by one. There is no public statement, as of late 25, on what he was told during those months. There is no public statement on whether he asked his father where his older sister, or his other older sister, or his older brother, or his older stepbrother had gone. He had been alone in a house with his father since the spring. He had been alone in a house that smelled, deputies later said, of decomposition. He had been alone, perhaps, with the only person on the other side of the wall that family had built around them. He was taken from the house by deputies on the night of October 27th. He was placed in the care of the Johnston County Department of Social Services. He has not, to public knowledge, seen his father since.
The 3-year-old survivor is now in the custody of the Johnston County Department of Social Services. He is, as of this episode's production, the only one of the family's 5 known children still alive. It is after the arrest that no one had known before. There was, the father told them, a 5th death before all of these, before any of them. After the family had moved into the house on Springtooth, an infant, a son, had also died. The father had named him Riley. He had been 1 month old. According to the search warrant affidavit, the father told investigators that Riley's health had declined and that he had wrapped the baby in plastic or paper and that he had buried the baby in the woods behind the house. The baby's death had never been reported to anyone. Relatives of the family told the sheriff's office that they had never seen the baby. They had never been told that he existed. As of late 2005, the Johnston County Sheriff's Office had searched the woods behind the house. They had not, as of the time of this recording, located Riley's remains. They have said they will continue. Better weather, the affidavit notes, will help. There may yet be a 6th name on a tombstone that does not yet exist. There may yet be a tombstone for a child who was never given one. If you have concerns about a child's safety, whether the child is in your family, in your neighborhood, in your school, or in your church, please reach out. The Childhelp National Child Abuse Hotline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Call 1-800-4A-CHILD. That is 1-800-422-4453. Or visit childhelphotline.org. The people on the other end of that line are trained. The conversation is confidential. If you have any question at all about whether a child you know is safe, please make the call. Do not wait until the wall has been up for 9 years. Do not wait until the garage door has been closed for 5 months. Make the other call. Make the one that gets there before the silence. All information presented in this episode comes from public court records, official law enforcement statements, and the published reporting of WRAL Raleigh, the Raleigh News and Observer, ABC 11 WTVD, NBC News, and the Johnston County Sheriff's Office. The accused has been indicted on 4 counts of murder in the deaths of his children. He is, under the law of the state of North Carolina,